getting one. I'm a rhino, I'm a hornet toad. Netherlands to Borneo.
You're seeing this like
Mm.
very mysterious, very elusive animal that only a handful of people in the world have seen in a while.
Being like, Tiburon! And I look up as I have this fish upside down and I'm implanting a tag into an incision, and there's a 6-foot shark swimming directly at us. We're just like, uh-oh.
Run for that vehicle.
Wild and unprotected. Planet Earth, we can't neglect it. Nature sexy. We need this place, so please respect it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Wild and Unprotected. I think this episode's going to live up to the name of Wild and Unprotected, and it's going to be a pretty crazy one here today. We have Pablo García Salinas, who is a project director and science collaborator out in Spain, who primarily works with sharks. Hey Pablo, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
Doing good, doing good. It is a beautiful morning to record out here. I'm excited to record with you. We've been working on getting this together for quite a while. I know we've had some scheduling conflicts. You've been dealing with Congress, which is amazing. I'm so excited we get to record.
Yeah, it's also a really beautiful afternoon for me in Spain, so it'll be nice, I think.
Yeah, well, let's get kicked off with you. I know we talked about kind of your early life before we really hit record. Let's dive back into that and let's start with the very beginning and get to know you.
Perfect. Whatever you want. Okay.
Yeah, let's start at the very beginning. I know you had an interest in a species that's no longer with us, and that's kind of what started your wildlife journey. Let's talk about dinosaurs.
Yeah, I think that almost every kid start being really interested with dinosaurs. I was raised in the 80s. I'm from 1982. So I was, I think that I was the only kid in my school that knew what a paleontologist was back in the day. Because just way before Jurassic Park and all the Dinomania, for me was like an obsession. I just eat every single book about dinosaurs. I bought I asked for every single toy about the dinosaurs because one of my parents had a friend which was a paleontologist, and he had this beautiful room in his home filled with a lot of fossils and small dinosaurs.
That's pretty awesome. I grew up kind of during that peak Jurassic Park time. Was born in '94, so I had the first one just coming out, and then the second one came out shortly after, and it was like you said, Dino Mania out here. Everything from the toys were dinosaurs, even down to the chicken nuggets. I know that's still a thing. I think anytime I go to the grocery store, I'll see dino nuggets and think about how I felt as a kid. So it's impactful and it's amazing kind of what gets you started in that journey with wildlife and being interested in animals.
Fact, the Dinomania was like, I mean, my brain just overloaded with so much dinosaurs. And then it was the moment I realized, okay, I'm not going to spend my life with dinosaurs because it was like so much information. It was like dinosaurs every single word. And everyone was talking about dinosaurs. And I was like, okay, no way. I'm just going in another direction.
Yeah, well, it seems like you did go into another direction kind of later on and you decided to study art, right? Or sculpting?
Yeah, I was like, I have this. I'm not sure if it's in the rest of the world. It's in the same way that in Spain, but in Spain soon you have to decide which kind of career are you going to have. So you can choose letters and study literature, philosophy, Greek, Latin, or you can study more science-based career. So I studied the branch for the science during my early years, and I was studying chemistry, physics, maths, biology, obviously. But then when I had the possibility to choose what career I was going to study, I just changed. And I just went to fine arts and I started a career in fine arts. But as soon I understand that perhaps that was a little mistake and the science was calling me in the other.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way and went through kind of something similar. Obviously, starting a media production company. The arts and creation are very much kind of a part of who I am. But I learned very quickly that I kind of went a different direction in college and studied sports kind of at the end of my college career, thinking, oh yeah, that was going to be the path forward for me. I'm going to be able to make some money and be able to figure out life then. And no, ended up, right back towards wildlife. So I completely get it.
And it's quite funny because talking with people, a lot of people, biologists and also people which are artists, I think that at some point they always want to, they have like these two options, study biology or study art. So I'm not sure why. I don't know why. Perhaps it's, I think, or I want to think perhaps in a really like idealization of the situation, but I think that perhaps artists and biologists can see the world in a different way that other people. I don't know. But the truth is, a lot of my mates when I was studying art, they were thinking about studying biology, and when I was studying biology, they were thinking about studying art.
Hmm. Yeah. Artists and creatives in the world see everything in kind of technicolor. And then the biologists and science-based people in the world see the world as a textbook. And I don't mean that they literally see the text. I mean that they see everything as something that they can learn from and that they can question and they can move the needle in regards to our level of knowledge. So it's interesting to see the two perspective between the two types of people.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So after you studied art, what'd you do after that?
I have like this existential crisis that you get when you realize that you are like 20 years old and there's no proper future for you and all this stuff. And then I decide that I need to have like a break from my career, my artistic dream and all this stuff. And then I just moved to just a random place. And this random place were the Canary Islands. The Canary Islands are like a small archipelago. They don't say they are small, but it's actually there's like 7 islands, I think, near the shore of Western Africa. And it's a paradise. I mean, it's a beautiful place. The people is absolutely amazing. It's probably is the kindest people in all in Spain. So I have a lot of fun there. And then I have like this crisis here in Valencia, which I currently live also. So for me, going to the Canary Islands were like a moment for discovery, for to try to understand myself, try to understand what future I want. And then I have like this big vital revelation, this universe signal, I don't trust. I'm sorry. I cannot. I mean, I don't trust in the universe sending me signals. I'm sorry. But for the people that know me and I explain the story, it's like, oh, the universe was talking to you. And okay, whatever. But I mean, and this revelation was in a beach. I just, I went to Tenerife, which is one of the islands of this archipelago, the Canary Islands. I lived there. I was also doing some studies. But I spend a lot of my time just moving from beach to beach, trying to discover new places, new pictures. And it was like this discovery time for me. And then I arrived to this beach in the north of the island. Back then, I didn't know that it was a nude beach. I don't care. I just take my clothes off and went into the water. Well, I was swimming in the water with these crystalline waters, with the dark sand. It's a volcanic island. And then I found well, they found me a shark, a small shark. It was quite small, like I don't know, mm, 40 centimeters or something like that. I'm sorry, 40 centimeters in your units. In the metric system is 40 centimeters. I don't know in the rest of the world. So I just looked at these animals and I was so scared because then I saw another and I saw another. And in my mind, I I thought, okay, if there is are the pups, the mothers should be around. So I just freak out. I just went out of the waters, not screaming because I'm quite discreet and I was also naked in the middle of the beach. But anyway, I just ran out of the water and I say, okay, what just happened? During all my summer years that I can remember, I went to the beach here in Spain, in the Mediterranean coast of Spain. But I've never had an encounter with a shark, never. So that was something that sparked something in me. So start, I try to learn more about sharks and understand what was happening in the sea with these small animals. And then also in this island in Tenerife, I went to a zoo aquarium, which is called Loro Parque. And it's a place where they have like this huge connection of animals, a lot of different animals. And I booked a tour to see the inner part of the park, to see how the filtration system work, how the people taking care of the animals were doing the job, and all the stuff behind the curtain. And at some point, I was looking at a huge pool that they have with these orcas, and a huge, really huge orca. Yes, get in front of me and just starting at me with this beautiful and enormous black eye. And I was like, wow. Again, it's not. I don't know if it's the universe in me, the universe sending me signals or whatever. But I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. So I just say to myself, okay, this year you are going to start biology. You are going to start working at the oceanographic in Valencia, and your career is going to turn in another direction. And then it happened.
I mean, you think about how many things have to go right for stories like that to really kind of unfold and lead to where you are now. I mean, it's easy to look back and say, wow, like that's pretty crazy. But with it all starting on the nude beach is really funny.
Yeah, that's something that it happened all again. It will happen again during my career and my trajectory. But when I look back, it's like that you can see this straightforward path. It's like, okay, you can see all the different steps that bring you to here. But in this moment, when you are taking all these different, when you are changing your life, you are just looking at different directions, you are so lost. I mean, I was so lost every time that I took these like huge, important directions. But yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, life is all about those steps and decisions, right? And
Absolutely.
clearly the ones that you took, while albeit pretty funny,
Yeah.
led you to where you are now. Talking about your time at the beginning with Oceanographic in 2007, around that time period, and getting that degree in biology.
Okay. So I was starting my degree in biology, and then the opportunity just rise. Someone was hanging these posters at the corridors of the university, just saying that
Hmm.
the oceanographic was looking for people to work there. The oceanographic, for those who doesn't know about it, is like one of the biggest aquariums in Europe. It's based in my city, in Valencia, in Spain, and it was quite new when this happened. The Sonography, I think they opened like in 2020, I'm not sure exactly when they opened, like in 2002 or something like that.
Hmm.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. But it's
Early 2000s, we'll put
early
that.
2000. Yeah, exactly. It was early 2000s. Okay, and I wanted to work there, but I want to work there as a biologist. I do not want to do anything at all with kids. I didn't like kids. I did not want to work with kids because I had like it was some years ago, I was working in a store of games, and I was like, okay, I cannot stand more kids around me. I'm sorry. But the job offering was in the education department of
Hmm.
graphic, and that means working with kids. And also it was working at something that I don't was really fond of, which was like talking with people, because I was quite quiet as a person, and I did not love to talk with people or giving talks or whatever. And obviously I didn't want to work with kids, but it was the job and I didn't
Hmm.
want. because to pay for the degree, I was needing some money. So I started there. And I soon realized that, wow, the education job was really intense, but it was really interesting. It was really, really interesting. And if you let the kids decide, there's like a lot of things to take in mind when you are doing education of environmental issues, animal problems, etc. And
Hmm.
then suddenly I start realizing that, well, that's so cool. And that's like one of the best ways to help my community and also help nature around me. Just talking about the problems that are happening and teach the new generations about it and what they can do to revert these problems. So something that at the beginning was something like, okay, I need the money. Don't worry, I don't care about it, but I need the money. I will do it. And also I'm working at the sonographic. Then I realized that that was something that it was really useful, and I start loving the education. Obviously, the rest of my colleagues, but also loving the educational part of my career as an not early scientist, but early whatever that is working with biology.
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize how important those comms and education jobs are, especially at organizations like Oceanographic, which is stunningly beautiful, by the way. That is one of the most beautiful facilities I think I've ever seen and can't wait to visit one day. Absolutely gorgeous. But those jobs, especially with the direct interaction with people who come to visit, with kids, those leave such an impact and inspire people. To me, it's wild that a lot of those jobs are kind of the entry level. You just get in and people just need the money, when often those are the most important and most impactful, especially to those young kids. I mean, I talk about this quite often. It's not really liked, but it's the truth. A lot of my first exposure to marine wildlife that led me down the path that I'm on right now is SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida. It kickstarted my interest and my passion, and I can kind of still vaguely remember. I was really young at the time, but I can vaguely remember the different team members that were involved in explaining what was going on, especially very similar to you, at the orca shows, and getting an understanding of wildlife and why those team members saw what they were doing as important for the species to be able to show them off and garner interest and things like that. So those communications and educations team members within organizations like the Oceanographic, even like what we do here with helping organizations communicate their projects, their missions, their research, that's important, right? Finding a way to make it fun and entertaining is something that
Absolutely.
we do here is important too. But at the end of the day, the heart of it is communication and relaying that and inspiring the next generation. So it's really cool to see that at the base of your career and your entry point was in that communication and education realm. I know it's evolved from there, especially in regards to comms. So let's kind of talk about that of, what kind of happened next in regards to the communication and education portion of things.
Yes, I soon realized that, okay, we were doing a lot of research at the sonographic, but we have to think how to manage to get all this information to the public, how to make the people was aware of what we were doing at the sonographic. Beside like a, I don't know, if you go to a place like the sonographic, you can see the animals, but behind that is there's a lot of work done in the field, in a conservation research. So we were like trying to make the people to understand that a place like the oceanographic was not just like like an aquarium. It was something.
Hmm.
Okay. And soon we realized that the best way to make the people to understand and take care of the environment and all the messages that we were delivering them was trying to generate deep emotional connections at moments that were emotional for them. And then when I was finishing my degree of my biology degree, and I changed and I start studying aquaculture, that's a story we can talk later. We realized that we can use something that was like it was like something people that didn't use for anything, as a
Hmm.
resource to do communication, raise awareness, and education to the public. And that was the egg cases from shark and skates. We start a program, Fundación Oceanográfic and Asociación Lamna, which is a association of researchers focused on sharks and rays here in the Valencian community. We start working with fishers, bringing us discard, in this case, shark egg cases with the embryos inside. So we were going to the harbor to pick the egg cases and then raise the eggs in aquarium. We had the hatchlings, and then we release the animals into the wild, and everyone was happy. And you can bring fishers into to do the release of the animals. You can bring public and talk about sharks. You were releasing sharks, so that something that appeared in the news. It was super fun. It was fantastic because you had like this, that you had something that is going to die because the as something as the egg of the shark, but and then you turn it into a resource. Okay, that's fine. But we thought a little bit more and we said, okay, what about if we just give the tools to the kids and the kids take care of the entire process? So we start working with schools near here, near Valencia. We give them these wine cellars because it's something that you can keep at constant temperatures quite easily. It's like a small fridge. We give them all the material they need, like the glass, the aquarium, all the
Hmm.
filtration they need, this cool wine storage unit, and all the stuff. And then we give them eggs, or we bring the animal with the animals. Sorry, we bring the kids. We bring the kids to the harbor to talk with the
They might be
fishers.
animals too.
We give them all these resources just to develop different projects. So with something as small and fragile and something, it was like, yeah, a discard element, something as the egg case, they start developing different programs because they need to go to talk with the fishers. And suddenly you have kids learning where their food were coming, all the problems that the fishing industry has, all the things that is happening in the sea with the fishers. But they also learn about the biology of the sharks because they had to raise the eggs. So they have to check if there was abnormalities during the development of the egg. They have to take care of the little embryos once they hatch. They had to learn about the environment in the near
Hmm.
environment because these animals they were going to release the animals into the wild. So they need to learn about the shoreline, the different communities into the wild. They have to learn about what's happening in the sea near there. And also they have to learn about engineering. I mean, it's not a complex mechanism, but they have to learn about the chemistry of the water, about the filtration
Hmm.
system, about everything. And even they were able to develop programs, for example, trying to understand how the climate change could affect the development of these eggs just by raising the eggs at certain temperatures and then raising the eggs, sorry, in another temperature with something as, yeah, this is as small as the egg case of a small shark. They developed a lot of different strategies and projects, and it is because we are still doing it. It's so cool.
Yeah, honestly, I think that was one of my favorite programs that we talked about during our discovery call before we started recording today was this program. I mean, I can't imagine kids raising shark pups and learning so much from that in kind of a live environment where they can really pull from it. I know when I was in grade school and even in middle school, we were hardly trusted to have a gerbil or a hamster or anything like that. We were lucky if it survived half the year, let alone the full years. So it's really cool to see programs that heavily invest in children and their future and their interest in science and biology going forward. And especially with sharks, like what animal is cooler to be able to capture a kid's interest than a shark, really? I mean, you can look back towards kind of both of our interests with dinosaurs.
Exactly.
Sharks kind of are the dinosaurs of the sea,
Yes.
if you really want to do a direct comparison, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
A
And
thought that
also,
I just had though is I wonder how many of, these kids from the very beginning of your time with this program are actually starting, their careers in shark science now. That would be really cool to see if you could look at some of that data and see if anyone went through that kind of raising a shark pup and is now working at a place like the Oceanographic.
in some years, I will be able to answer this question. What is really interesting for us is not just that the kids are like involved in all this situation. It's because they are kids, so they had to involve their parents. So
Hmm.
suddenly they bring the parents to the school to see the sharks. We develop different programs. So perhaps we can do like talks for the kids to their own parents or for the kids to other kids at their same school. So the all the Shark Tank becomes like a point of reunion for a lot of people, like trying to see if the animal is about to hatch. They try to who's the first to take the picture of the animal. You involve
Hmm.
the entire community around this program. So, and it's really, really interesting for us. And obviously, in the future, who knows if we have created some early Korean scientists about sharks thanks to this program.
Yeah, I mean, even think about if one of those children grow into this career, that's one more potential shark scientist that we did not have. And both of us have a background, in biology and understand what that's like and how difficult it is just to even get to the point where you're at. I unfortunately never made it into the field, really, at least officially, because it's difficult. You go through a lot and there has to be a lot of passion that really drives you to get there. So even just one child that's impacted by that, that's one more scientist that we potentially have out there that could discover something that's really impactful to potentially saving a species or starting an organization like the Oceanographic, that becomes an educational piece and inspiring arena for the future generations. So those types of things I think are unbelievably important, and that's just a really cool program.
Absolutely. And yeah, this education idea, that you have to know about something if you want to preserve it and you want to I mean, a lot of people here in Spain, they don't know that they have sharks in the water near here. While you are doing snorkeling or you just start swimming, you have sharks in the Mediterranean. Obviously, you have, and they
Hmm.
don't have any clue. They don't have know that they are eating sharks. For example, in Spain, we eat a lot of sharks. Spain is the main country in the European Union in terms of capture of sharks. We are like a really fishing nation in terms of sharks
Hmm.
and exportation of sharks, not just for food for the people, but also fish flour for pets and another kind of animals, for oil, etc. You from a shark you can almost use every single piece. So we have these traditional dishes in Spain, which are sharks prepared in a different varieties, but you never call them this. You never call it tiburon, which is shark in Spanish.
Hmm.
You just use another fancy name, never using the proper name, which is tiburon. So people is eating sharks without not noticing this. But so thanks to these programs, we are able to make the people to learn about these incredible animals.
Yeah, I mean, like we said at the beginning, kind of at this topic, communication and education goes a long way. Once people are able to understand and know exactly what they're dealing with or what they're interacting with, they tend to take on a different viewpoint, and that's incredibly important, whether it's kids, whether it's adults. Having that understanding is kind of the basis of what we move forward on.
Absolutely.
So let's kind of keep it moving. I know your time studying biology didn't really stop just at getting a biology degree and going forward, working with the oceanographic in the communication and education realm. You kept going. So let's talk about your PhD a little. This is going to be a fun one.
Okay, first some context. I was working in the aquarium in the educational department, but uh, I had like this huge connection with the people working in veterinary and biology teams. So I had like this really good relationship with them, and I also assist to the every time that a big animal just died or something like that. I assist to the necropsy to see what's happening inside the animal and everything. Okay, I was learning biology, and then I was like obsessed with two animals that we had at the aquarium, the saltfish. I really love the sawfish. It's an incredible animal. It's a really ancient lineage of fish. It's so amazing. These animals, the mere presence of these animals is like wow. They're so huge, so beautiful with the huge saw and all the stuff. Uh, and I talk about a lot about them with the visits to the aquarium to the kids. I mean, it was really nice. It was really nice. But then one day, one of the animals just died. A female died, and I assist to the necrosis. It was like a really quiet moment and quite sad moment because it was like a really charismatic animal for us. And it was at the same point that I had to choose between trying to focus my career in with a master degree in biodiversity and conservation, or see another paths, another options. And there is this master degree in aquaculture, which is really focused on the different facilities to raise fish just for human consumption and not just for aquariums or whatever. When I was during the necropsy of these animals, I was talking to the vets and they were telling me that it was really sad and it was a pity because it was the female, and the females are like huge important animals in the species, more important than the males. That the species were in a recovery program and blah blah blah. And I asked them, okay, but there was someone doing any kind of active reproduction program of these animals or not? And the answer was not. I mean, in most of the zoos and aquariums that they have recovery programs and reproduction programs of species, they just let nature go. They just try to mimic the conditions for the animals to be as best as possible, and then they just let nature go and the animals will reproduce at some point. But that's something that not happen always. Sometimes certain species they need just a little push.
Mhm.
I just took a decision. I made a decision and I said, okay, I'm not going to study the biodiversity and conservation master. I'm going to start the master of aquaculture because I want to learn how can I reproduce these animals in a controlled environment and also help these animals not just in aquariums but also in the wild.
Mhm.
Obviously, I was the only one in the entire history of the master of aquaculture that had this kind of idea in mind. The rest of my classmates were like, no, 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 we are here to learn how to feed the fish to make it to be the most profitable way because we want to work in this industry, or I want to study this kind of thing related to reproduction or feeding of these animals because we need to pay money for the aquaculture industry. And well, and I was not interested at all. I just want to finish my degree to be able to do my PhD in shark reproduction and trying to use all the techniques that I learned, all the different reproduction techniques that are commonly used in other species, not just fish species, but also mammal species, such as artificial insemination, such as hormonal control, and all this stuff. I want to use it with sharks and rays. So I just went to the people, the specialist group of reproduction in the Universidad Politécnica de Valencia, which is one of the best universities, public universities here in Spain, with this idea. And they were used to work with sea bream, to work with anguilla, but
Hmm.
obviously not with sharks. And they tell me, okay, we can do it. I mean, you are the ones you are the one who knows about sharks. We are the ones who knows about the reproduction stuff, and we just need money. If you are able to get some money to do that, let's do the PhD. So I'm not sure how, but I get a grant for the local authorities here in Valencia to do my PhD. And the rest is history. I start doing my PhD in techniques and development of techniques to try to control the reproduction of sharks and rays in captivity. And then comes the funny part, because this group was specialist in sperm management. So I had to learn how to obtain sperm from sharks and rays, how to deal with sperm of sharks and rays. And you can, if you look in for the literature, who is doing this around the world? We are just like a handful of people working with this kind of stuff and trying to do something with sperm of sharks and rays. And I can proudly say that I made my entire PhD thesis focused on shark sperm, which is quite nice, by the way.
That is so awesome. I don't, we named the show Wild and Unprotected as the funny innuendo to get people interested. And I never would have guessed that we would have had someone who based their PhD off of shark sperm on the show, but it's so perfect. And I feel like it's not something that's talked about very
No,
often.
absolutely no. I was the weird guy talking about sharks in the conferences of the people talking about this big reproduction stuff, focusing on aquaculture or in cell gametes and all this stuff. And I was the weird guy talking about the sperm in shark specialist congress, because I'm always like, I don't. It can be quite strange when you start explaining to people how are you able to obtain the sperm and all this stuff. But they love to put the grossest and most weird videos of sperm extraction during the conference and just watch the face of the people. It's quite funny. I mean, these kind of talks you never forget.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I don't think I'll ever forget this one. And we're not even going through the strange video.
When I started working with the sperm extraction, there was some authors who had developed some techniques, and I was like trying to work with it. But I tried to choose model species to work with, which were like small size, like quite handy to work with. And then we start developing this technique was or just abdominal massage or using a catheter, a cannula insertion into the seminal vesicles. And so different techniques to try to able to obtain the best quality sperm. And I was like the expert, the biggest expert in sperm, in shark sperm obtention in the university, at least in my university, and in the oceanographic was I was the only one doing this kind of stuff. But one day they informed us that another species of shark. I was used to work with cat shark, the small spotted cat shark.
Hmm.
Oh, it's a medium size. No, it's a small size shark species. So another species, a North shark species. These animals they were doing some intervention with this animal. They were doing like some stuff with it. So they asked me if I want to try to obtain some sperm samples of these animals, and I said, okay, I'm your guide. I mean, of course, I know how to obtain this shark sperm. So when I went to the room that they were using to handle the animal, and they are doing all the stuff to this, I get my cannula. I just try to insert the cannula into the seminal vesicles of the animal. And then I realized that if every time I use the cat shark as a model species, I just had this like one hole to insert the cannula and obtain the sperm. In this species, we have two holes, two different holes to insert the cannula. And I remember being there thinking, okay, I'm supposed to be the expert. I'm used to one hole. Here in the urogenital papilla of this animal, there are two holes. And I'm not sure what's going to happen if I insert the cannula into the ground hole. So I just cross my fingers. I just choose one of the holes. I insert the cannula, and I was able to obtain some sperm of this animal. But then I say, okay, perhaps I not choose the proper model species. So I start doing like this observation of different reproductive structures in different sharks and rays. And when we used to talk about sharks and rays in general, we are like making a small box to fill like 1,500 different species with a lot of different evolutionary life histories and evolutionary pathways. So the reproduction structures of these animals is quite different ones from each other. So while doing my PhD, I was also doing like this catalog of reproductive structures which are necessary to understand and know if you are want to do some reproduction programs and artificial insemination programs and all this stuff.
That's so cool. It's so different. I don't even know where to start with that. It's kind of unbelievable, the transition of science and how deep you can get. And once you find that niche, what you can pull from that, literally pull from that or extract from
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, I've worked with species which are like, I know, like they live really close here. I work with deep water species, with a lot of different species, and try to understand how's the sperm of the different animals, how to be able to obtain sperm of these animals without harming them, how to cryopreserve this sperm, because my main goal was to be able to work with the sperm for long time periods.
Hmm.
That means that I need to protect the sperm from cell damage, from contamination, and it was a completely new field of study. So in one hand, it was really exciting because everything that every new discovery was new, absolutely new.
Hmm.
And on the other hand, I felt quite alone because I just had like like 5 people around the world doing the same as I was doing. It was a really, it was, I mean, this was really weird moment. If I think in it, if I think it's really weird because it's at some point I was in the middle of the pandemic going to the street because one colleague of mine was bringing dead animals from the from the harbor to the university. So he made us stop in the midway. I just went to the street in the middle of two cars because no one was not supposed to be in the street trying to obtain sperm from animals in the street, even not even in a laboratory or something like that. No, no, in the middle of the street, or just bringing dead animals into my kitchen. I try to obtain sperm from sea eagles and all the different elasmobranch species I can put my hands on. So it was really strange, but it was really, really funny.
It's amazing where sperm will lead you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Well, I know we have some interesting stories to continue to talk about. So as much fun as sperm is, we'll move on and let's talk about the blue sharks. I know you had something interesting with blue sharks as well that is just as good of a follow-up as your time with the sperm extraction.
You are not going to believe that, but we had like our first interview was like 1 week ago, something like that. So the
Hmm.
day after our talk, a blue shark stranded near here. Yeah,
Wow. With the
yeah. The
same
next
injuries?
next day, yeah, with the same injuries. Yeah.
Wow. Well, let's talk about those injuries and let's break it down.
Okay. So everything started in 2016. I think it was something like that. Yeah. here in the Valencian community, we have which is called the Red de Varamiento, which is like a stranding network, and the stranding network is managed by the Oceanographic and also the Universitat de Valencia, which is the public university where I studied biology. So I was member of LAMNA, this association that I told you before, and we assist to the university to the strandings of different shark species. So a colleague of me, Jaime, and I assist to a stranding of one animal. And the next day, because it was during the middle of the night, and the next day we found that this animal had like this bill, the rostrum, we called it the rostrum of a swordfish embedded
Hmm.
in its head. And we say, okay, wow, what a coincidence, what weird collision of these two animals that shall
Hmm.
end up with the swordfish embedded in its head. But then we start noticing this kind of wounds, this kind of collisions in in almost all. It's in more than the 80% of the stranding phenomena of blue sharks here in the Valencian community is as a result of a swordfish and blue shark collision. So this is quite weird because it was something that the entire world was missing. No one was noticing that the blue sharks were stranding with bills or fragments of bills embedded in their head. And then we start using the CT scan that the oceanographic facilities has. And then we realized that sometimes we found this blue shark, this dead blue shark with the bill and obvious injury in their head, but in most of the animals, we were able to find fragments from past interactions with the blue shark. So up to 3 different bill fragments, you can find them in the head of a blue shark. So it's something that is happening regularly. And all the cases are the same. First, a lot of people call to the emergency because the emergency phone because they've seen a shark near the beach. If you go to assist the animal in the beach, you can see the behavior is always the same. The animal just comes into the shore and then goes back into the water, then again into the shore, is stranded again and again. At the end, the animal always die. If you observe you do this external observation of the animal, it seems that it's okay. You
Hmm.
see some scratches and nothing big. Well, there are cases where you can see the bill, but most of the
Hmm.
cases, the bill is broken inside the head, so you are not able even to see the injury, the point of entry of the bill. But when you put the head, well, the body of the animal into the CT scan, you observe this kind of lesions in the head of the animal. Just in the head of the animals, always adults of blue sharks and juveniles of swordfish, and near the eyes, near the nostrils, or near the gill slits. Never in the rest of the body, never in an upper position or lower position. It's like they're always using the same attack plane around the horizontal plane of the blue shark and at the
Hmm.
same spots. So it seems that the swordfish is trying to track or trying to point to some point. They are using like
Hmm.
probably the eyes as a target, and they just point and stab the blue shark. We don't know why. We are not sure why, but it's always the adult sharks and the juvenile swordfish, and we know that are all juveniles because this same colleague that I told you before, Jaime and I, spent 1 year, one entire year, going into a fishing plant, a fish processing plant, a plant. I don't know the name in English. It's this place that they catch these huge fish and they chop the fish and sell the fish like
It's
freezing.
similar processing plant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
processing plant for this swordfish. And we spent 1 year going there every single Tuesday. They let us to go into the dumpster, into the place where they dump all the rotting flesh of fish, all the things that they spoil, all the head, all the carcasses of almost every sea creature that they are able to sell, that you can find it in this room. I will send you some of the, I know they are not the best pictures, but you are not able to understand the smell of rotting,
Ugh.
of a rotting head of a swordfish. The sword of a swordfish is covered in an oily substance. It's some waxy something, and when this substance begins to rot, it starts the rotting process. It's insane how they smell, how badly they smell. But someone had to do it. So we take measures of every single rostrum of swordfish to know if the rostra that we were finding inside the heads of these animals were from adult or juvenile individuals.
That is wild. Just taking it back kind of the beginning, you don't even think that some juvenile swordfish and blue sharks would even really occupy the same portion of the water column at, those points in time. But for them to occupy that and then end up in these almost aggressive behaviors from the juvenile swordfish, that's just crazy to think about. Thinking about you trudging through just remains of gross fish just sounds horrible.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes science is done that way. I when I give talks at the university, I love to show them these moments of taking data in the worst possible conditions. To the pictures of I just taking sperm samples in the middle of the road nearby my home, or using my kitchen as a lab, improvised lab to obtain this, or being surrounded of rotten animals. Because I think that when you are talking with a young Korean scientist or someone with that they have like idealized the idea of science and discovery and this kind of stuff, it's really hard sometimes. It's really hard. You have to travel. Sometimes you have to travel a lot by yourself, a lot.
Hmm.
It's difficult to have like a healthy family relationship when you go to the birthday of your granddad just smelling to rotten shark because you just didn't have time enough to go to have a shower. I can live. I've lived this situation where I just asked for my brother, just please bring me some deodorant and a new t-shirt because I need to change and leave my, yeah, I lived the situations. It's sometimes it's hard to do science, and it's even harder in the sea.
Hmm.
In the sea, everything is harder and expensive, more and more expensive.
Yeah, people don't understand that last part, how difficult it is to do oceanic research, how expensive it is. Ships are not cheap. Crews for those ships are even more expensive, and the amount of data that you can extract per dollar is so much less than the data that you get for anything that's land-based research-wise, whether it's habitat and ecosystem research or wildlife research. The value per dollar is so different and it makes it such a difficult sell to be able to do so. And then the effect that it takes on you personally is so different because you're out on the water, you're in a confined space with, a certain amount of people and you get what you can get, and there's a lot of pressure there. So people don't realize how much more difficult it is to do oceanic stuff versus land-based.
Absolutely. And that's the reason we try to work together with other entities and also with fishers a lot. Because I mean, I work a lot with fishers and they have all my thanks. I give them my thanks because they provide me the animals to do some of my stuff, some research I did it thanks I work with deep water species thanks to them, and in a really cheap way, just asking them for dead animals, if you build this healthy relationship with fishers, is something that it works in both directions. It's really nice. They give us a lot of information that we another way we have to spend a lot of money to do it. So that's the reason I've been embarked in trawlers with and trying to understand also what's their situation and their way of life. And also that allowed me uh, to try new and fancy flavors, because they are really generous. They made a lot of good food on board. So they cook for you when you are embarked with them. And it's really funny, and it's really good. But sometimes you eat something that you never thought about eating. For example, I eat omelette made with ovaries of shark, the oocytes in of the yeah. There's this deep water shark species, which is the kitefin, I think it's called in English. Lisa is the scientific name, and this species has these huge oocytes. So the fishers made this weird looking and weird tasting omelette with these eggs. But it was curious. It tastes funny, I suppose. The texture was like cheese, fried cheese or something like that, but it was made with the oocytes, with the
Hmm.
from a deep water shark species. And yeah, it's one of the highlights of my culinary trip with the fishers.
I could imagine taking that first bite and wondering what in the world is this texture?
Yeah,
Why am I eating this? This feels weird.
exactly.
Well, we've gone through a lot. Do we want to talk about one of the newer projects that you are involved with and that you have going? I know there's a special shark ray species that we want to talk about with guitarfish.
Yes, some years ago, thanks to the collaboration of fishers from sport fishers, we found what we think it's the last population in Europe of the giant guitarfish, or the black chin guitarfish, which is the Glaucostegus themiculus. It's a quite big species of guitarfish that appears to be only in the southwest of Spain, perhaps in the south of Portugal. We don't know it yet. Near a protected area, which is called Doñana, which is one of the biggest natural parks in Spain. And for me, working with this species is like the culmination of a really long journey, because a lot of the different techniques that I've been working for a lot of time, for example, working with the tagging of butterfly rays in the Canary Islands, like
Hmm.
obtaining sperm samples from the rays and skates here at the oceanographic, working a lot with different techniques. I think that we are right now at the best moment to be able to apply it in a critically endangered species. And it's something that I've never thought I would be able to do here in my country. The kind of animals, the kind of aggregations that we are finding in this area is something that perhaps I can think in the Western Africa or something like that. You can be able to find these aggregations, but never so close to my home. So I think that all the people involved in this program are like really shocked by the presence of these animals, but we are like 100% putting our best effort to try to make this population stabilize and grow and learn all the things that we don't know about it, because yeah, it's completely new for us. We know that we have juveniles, that we have adults. There's an area that perhaps is a nursery ground for the species. So there's a lot of things that we need to understand before trying to preserve the animals. But now we have like all this history of research, developing techniques, contact with people, and establish the network as big as possible for the collaboration and working with these species. The last time we went to work with these animals, we were like 40 people in the beach, from fishers, recreational fishers, administration, veterinarians, wild veterinarians, aquarium veterinarians, a lot of different people. So it's like a culmination. And in the near future, I think that we can make this charismatic species like this emblem, this flagship of the conservation of the marine environments, at least in Spain. So I'm really hope to see what's going to happen in the future with this species.
Yeah, I mean, that makes two of us. I mean, it's not a species that's talked about a lot, especially kind of in the United States, outside of some documentaries that you would see that people would be exposed to out here. It's not really a thing that's talked about, but it's such a unique and cool species that I think brings up so many different conversations. Just based off of looks alone, you get to have that conversation of, well, what is it? You can't really tell what it is. And then when you start to talk about exactly what it is, and you get more confusion of, well, wait a second. And then you go deeper into an explanation, and then you kind of find out, where they're located. I don't want to say critical levels of population, but obviously there's not many, and it evolves. So I think this is an incredible project. You said it's a newer project, right?
Yeah, it's a new program. We just it's like something that we start like 3 years ago. It's completely new. But as I told you, we try to use all the techniques, but also the educational and the awareness of this species. And we put all the knowledge of the education department, not just from the oceanographic, but also the aquarium of Seville,
Hmm.
to develop programs. Because the first thing that we need to know is, okay, what's happening with this species, but also we need the people to know about the species. So by making the people say, look, this is a endangered species near here. You live with these animals. You are swimming with these animals every single summer and you don't know about it. But be able to make the people to get some interest in this species will make the people to try to protect this species, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, that ties back into the communication and education. You can't protect what people don't know about because there's only so much, a team of scientists and researchers can really do without the larger backing of public donors and people that are interested. So it's kind of interesting to see. I know we did talk about the location of these studies and how interesting that is and how that impacts this program. Let's talk about that.
That was the first thing that we were completely shocked. We were like, no way, that thing's happening. Okay, so we had this natural park. It is called Doñana. It's in the south part of Spain. They have like this huge sand beach. It's like I think I don't know if it's 14 or 18 kilometers long beach, and it's a protected space. Okay, we have to have this in mind. It's a protected area. Okay, so this beach is one of the places that narcos and people trying to move drugs and other people from the north of Africa to the European continent, they use this beach as a place where they can just park their own boats. So once we were like walking for kilometer after kilometer of this beach, trying to see the guitar fish in the shore, near the shore. But in the other, we have like this pristine environment in one hand, and in the other hand, like tons of barrels of oil that they use to feed the boats to be as fast as possible and try to avoid all the controls of the Spanish government. You can see the boats in the middle of the sand dunes. It's like insane. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Knowing that you are try to protect a species in a place that narcos are using to deliver drugs into the peninsula. The places that even if you have like all the authorizations and all the paperwork that you need, perhaps the army can stop you and ask, "What are you doing here?" It's quite weird.
I'm playing with guitarfish.
Exactly. It's really weird to be able to be working there. But yeah, it's also it's a place, it's a protected space. So no one is cleaning the beach. That means that if a whale strands there, a dolphin, a dead dolphin, dead turtles, everything that can strand in this beach, they just grab the people of the natural park, they just grab the animal and put it in the other side of the dunes So you see the natural park, all the dunes, and then the beach filled with a lot of trash and a lot of the remains of this boat. So in the future, a paleontologist is going to dig a hole in this dune, and they will find a weird community of lot of different dead animals just piled one over the other. So
Oh, could you imagine that? Just thinking like way on in the future, the paleontologist is, you know, going through any of these fossilized remains and they're like, what? What is this? Or did the water
actually,
go this far? Or why were some of these species
actually
here?
trying to make weird theories of whatever.
They can refer back to this podcast, which will be educational material for time to come. And find that out. That is wild. Just there's so many layers to that. It's an amazing new program. You're dealing with narcos on a beach in Spain. And I think, for our US based listeners, a lot of them won't realize how close the northern tip of Africa and kind of the southern tip of Spain are to each other. A question that I do have for you is, what are some of the long-term goals of this project? With it being a newer project, still trying to find its footing, where's this project headed?
First, we have to learn what's happening in the population of this species. We have to learn
Hmm.
why these animals are there. If these animals are connected to other populations that they are perhaps in north of Africa or in the eastern Mediterranean, we have to know what's happening with this population. That's the main goal. And then my personal goal is to be able to transform this species in a flagship. We have to transform this cryptic species in something that people can feel related. And
Hmm.
it's quite weird because it's a weird animal, and they live in the sand, so they're not easy to find. But make the people to understand that these animals are really values and they have to protect them. We got this similar case in Spain with a feline, which is called the Iberian lynx. The
Hmm.
Iberian lynx is an animal what was in the brink of extinction with the work of a lot of people, the push of the authorities and the public. It becomes like this flag species for all the conservation of of an emblem of what can we do to save a species. Spend
Hmm.
a lot of money to be able to make this stupid cat not be extinct. Why not do the same with another weird, even weirder species, which is the
Hmm.
black chain guitarfish?
Yeah, it might be a drug addicted guitarfish. That might be why that it's there.
Yeah, we can make a movie about it.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think that wild project is a perfect transition point for us to start our audience's favorite segment of the show. And for those new to the show, we're about to start the Wild Stories segment of Wild and Unprotected. It's as if this show hasn't been crazy enough talking about shark sperm extraction, blue sharks being stabbed in the head by a swordfish, guitarfish projects that have to deal with narcos. I think this episode has already had it all, but this section of the show is really where we let the fun happen. So, Pablo, do you have a wilder story for us? I think this has already been pretty wild.
I was thinking, what could I talk about it? And I think that I can mix some of my favorite stuff. One is to go to the Canary Islands. The other is the sperm extraction. And the other one is try to smuggle. I'm not sure if smuggle is the correct word, but to to try to hide biological samples around you, try to move from one point to the other. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
smuggling.
That's something that you kids never have to do because it's quite dangerous. So never do it. But sometimes obtain all the permits to get a sample from one place to the other. It can be really, really, it's a hard work. You
Hmm.
spend a lot of time. And with your working with samples which can be destroyed as the sperm,
Hmm.
it's something that you have to have in mind that perhaps you have to move the sample from one place to the other in a discreet way. No one is going to notice. So, so that happened in the past year. Yeah, the last year I went to the Canary Islands because I'm collaborator in a project they have there. It's called the Race of Paradise project. They tag the really huge ray species, the spiny butterfly ray. It's a beautiful species which lives near the shoreline, and so we took the animals out of the water. We did ultrasounds to them. We tag the animals, measure them, and just release the animals to see what's happening with the population of this species. This is really nice. And I've been collaborating in this program like 3 years or something like that, or 4 years. So they know, the people running this program knows that I work with the sperm of animals. So during one of these campaigns, they were able to obtain a deep water species. I don't know the name in English of the species. I'm not going to even try. It's really deep water and really weird, this species. And I love the deep water species. And I mean, it was like the big opportunity to be able to obtain sperm from this species and study the sperm of this species. So I went to a university where they had this animals capture. We were able to obtain the sperm of the animals, but then I had to fly back to my home with a stop in the middle in Seville, with the tube filled with the sperm of the animal. So if you want to keep this sperm alive for long much as possible, you have to cool it as much as possible without freezing it. So you
Hmm.
low the temperature, and that's okay. You can put it in a freezer, and it works perfect. In a cooler, so sorry, you never have to freeze the sample. To the trip was going to be quite long because it was like first the Canary Islands to Seville, and then from Seville to Valencia. So I put the tube inside a bottle of Coke, a Diet Coke. I just put a cool bottle, and I just close as much as possible the tube, and I fill it into the Coke, and it was okay. So I took the plane, okay, perfect. But then we have like a delay, like an hour long delay or something like that. And I had to take another plane, and I started to get really nervous. So we arrived to Seville airport. I had to run from the plane, go out. I don't know why, but the air company made me went out of the airport, and then coming back, go back into the airport. So I had to pass again for the security controls with my Coke with the sample inside. So you know that you can go to the security control with more than 100 milliliters of.
Hmm.
So I was running, and then the woman in the security control told me, "Okay, you have something in your bag," and I was like, "Oh shit! It's a liquid. You have to drink it or throw it." So I opened the bottle. I was watching, because the Seville airport is really small. I was watching how the air where all the people from my new flight was embarking into the plane. So I didn't have time at all. So I drank in front of this lady. I drank the entire bottle of Coke to get the vial of the sperm inside, because
Oh
there was no
God.
way I was able to obtain the. So I drank it. I just crossed the security control, and then I, before just going into the queue to go to embark the plane, I just had to buy another bottle of Nestea or something like that, or iced tea, something like that, to put my my body filled with the sperm of this deep water shark, and I closed it, and then I went back to Valencia, and everything was fine. But the next day, I went to the university to try to observe the viability of the sperm cells, and we observe the viability of the sperm cells if they are moving, or we do another control, but it doesn't matter. The thing is, I opened the vial with the sperm, and it was filled with Coke. So that means that means two things. One, all the sperm was dead, obviously, and the other thing is Perhaps some of this sperm was swimming in the cold while I was drinking it in the security control.
My gosh.
And I think that this was the grossest thing that I've done for science.
Okay, that might be the wildest story we have ever had on this show. I am actually crying. That is so funny. Shit, the things you do for science.
Absolutely, yeah.
Were any of the sperm samples viable though? Was it worth
No,
it? No. No.
no,
Oh my gosh. Holy shit.
yeah, it's one of the highlights of my career also.
Well, the shirt says it all. Wild fucking stories. Wow. Pablo, I was expecting a lot of things. I was not expecting that. Right now.
Kids, never try to smuggle this kind of samples.
No, I'm trying to keep myself together. Oh my gosh. Oh shit. That's a good one. Oh my goodness. That's a good one.
Thank you.
Does anyone know about that story that you work with?
I know that they will know right now, yeah. Yeah, there are some things that you have to keep for yourself. And just be really serious. And when they ask me, wait, were the samples good? And I say, no, I'm sorry. It was just the
No.
procedure that didn't work.
Sorry, yeah, they just didn't make it. I don't know if it was temperature based or what it was.
Exactly.
Maybe it was altitude based. They couldn't survive the change in pressure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it could have been. Oh my gosh. You would be an excellent participant in have you ever seen the Jackass series?
Yeah, but yes, it's
They
something else.
drink the horse sperm.
Yeah,
My goodness. Wow. Well, I got nothing. That is so good. Well, on that note, I think it's a great point to wrap up the wild stories segment.
perfect.
Oh my goodness, Pablo. That you might have won. I don't even think there was something to win, but apparently there was. The wild stories segment. Wow. My goodness. Oh man. Well, Pablo, I think we've had an absolutely excellent show today. I am so happy you were able to take the time to be with us. This next part is the most important part of the show. And it's how to get involved, how to support, put everything out there for people to be able to connect with your projects, support you. You've been an absolutely amazing guest, and we want to make sure that people are able to support you and hopefully support you to where there's some more wild stories. Maybe not that wild, but wild.
Yeah, we obviously just the people can connect with me just going to the Instagram or trying to the social network of the Fundación Oceanographic or Fundación Azul Marino, which is the places which I'm working right now. Even Lamna Asociación Lamna, which is another association I'm working with and I'm part of. But I think that there's something that people can do to not just to help me, but to help all the community of people trying to work with sharks and rays. Sometimes when hearing during your talk, I was talking in a language which is not mine, which is I'm not used to talk so much in English.
Hmm.
When
Which you did fantastic, by the way. I
Thank
am
you.
so impressed. Thank you so much for doing that. It
No, thank you.
genuinely was impressive.
So, but it's something that the people which are from a non-English language countries, when they go to the big meeting of shark specialist people, we always try to look as clever and intelligent as we can. And sometimes trying to speak in a language that is not your own makes you feel a little bit stupid and makes you feel a little bit dumb. So from the last year, we start a program which is try to make Wikipedia work and the articles in Wikipedia in Spanish, which are around sharks and rays, to make it as best as possible. So
Hmm.
every single year we make a call for the Spanish researchers, people which is not an English speaking country, just try to update and upgrade the articles in Wikipedia. Because to be honest, a lot of young scientific people, the first thing that they do when they start trying to research about sharks and rays is just they went directly to Wikipedia. So please just try to collaborate with us to make this huge community of non-English speakers around sharks and rays, because I mean, obviously we need a common language for communication and share all of our knowledge, but it's really great if you are able to have your first access to science in a language which is
You understand.
closer to you. And I think that's one of the it's one thing that people can do, and it's really easy to do, to make the knowledge of sharks and rays in other languages to grow.
Yeah, I agree totally, and I think that's an absolute great shout out and definitely something that we should look to kind of as a scientific community. You know, how we can connect and relate with people whose first language or their native language isn't English. Because you're right, you know, a lot of those big conferences are kind of held in English. Why? And you know, maybe I'm too young to understand the why behind that, but it really forces the hand of different scientists around the world that if they want to get involved in a larger forum, you know, they might have to do something different than what they're used to. So bringing that education level back and translating it properly, I think, is key for widespread knowledge and growth. So I appreciate you saying that. That's something that's really important. And I think I have an idea on how we can have some more fun, but not in English, but more on that to come for our listeners. With that being said, is there anything else you want to leave with the audience, Pablo?
Yeah, one of my crazy dreams is to launch a lot of blue shark dummies, a lot of large scale toys into the to see what's happening there, to see if the swordfish is just attacking every single thing that they found into the sea. So if someone is able to create a model of a one-to-one full scale model of a blue shark, I will be able to sink in nearby and to see in the future if we found a lot of spears in the head of the.
Yeah, let's see how many times we can get those dummies stabbed.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one of my craziest dreams to just throw like 10 dummies to see what's happening.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, science can be fun, and that sure sounds like fun. So I'm sure if there's any of our listeners out there who have connections to potential donors to be able to create a program like that, it sounds like it would be a pretty fun one that we could create some pretty awesome content around too. We can set up
Absolutely.
some underwater cameras with different sensor arrays to really be able to capture what's going on, and I think that would be a great project.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
All right, that wraps up another episode of Wild and Unprotected. I want to thank you, Pablo. This has been easily one of my favorite episodes I think I've ever
Sure.
recorded. I can't wait for this to get out. Thanks again, and we'll see everyone in the next one
Thank you. My pleasure. And yeah, we'll repeat in the future.
for sure.